Donald Trump is still upset over his failed little birthday party, which not even his kids wanted to attend, by the way. And he made that very clear how much he's in his feelings with a complete meltdown in front of Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney during a press conference that went so poorly that Carney had to shut him up and shut him down halfway through because what he was saying was so insane, so out of it. And we are going to cover this press conference, but I want to begin with maybe the most insane parts: Trump attacking President Obama for some reason as he advocated on behalf of Putin.
Together very well. I look forward to that. The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago. But it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8, and now it's, I guess, what's that, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table, so it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war. Other than that, I think we're going to accomplish a lot. They don't talk. Putin speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else. He doesn't want to talk, because he was very insulted when he got thrown out of the G8. As I would be, as you would be, as anybody would be. He was very insulted. And, I mean, he was thrown out by Trudeau, who convinced one or two people, along with Obama. He was thrown out, and he's not a happy person about it, I can tell you that. He basically doesn't even speak to the people that throw him out. And I agree with him.
Donald Trump is probably especially upset with President Obama in this current moment because he knows how tiny his crowd sizes were. And I think maybe every time Donald Trump sees a small crowd or sees his cultists leave something early, he just thinks back to that moment, that beautiful moment at the DNC where President Obama made some suggestive comments about Donald Trump. But of course, that wasn't the only world leader he was attacking as he went after Trudeau. But then he started talking about why things aren't working out so perfectly with him and Mark Carney. And of course, as you would expect, he came back to the point which he always does, which is tariffs. Take a look.
What is holding up a deal with Canada from your perspective?
It's not so much holding up. I think we have different concepts. I have a tariff concept. Mark has a different concept, which is something that some people like. But we're going to see if we can get to the bottom of it today. I'm a tariff person. I've always been a tariff. It's simple, it's easy, it's precise, and it just goes very quickly. And I think Mark has a more complex idea, but also very good. So we're going to look at both, and we're going to see what we're going to come out with something, hopefully.
He says he's a tariff man. I'm a tariff guy. I like them, but he doesn't explain what that means in terms of why they haven't figured out a deal. The deals that were supposed to be done in very short order, by the way, not even close, not even being talked about. There's no deal. The deal is the healthcare plan. It doesn't exist. But Donald Trump continued to melt down over all his failed plans. It's not just his tariffs, also his disgusting and illegal ICE raids. He was asked about it right here, and then we'll see the moment where Carney just had enough and shut this thing down.
Why are you ordering ICE to target Democratic inner cities? What's behind that?
I don't know what you're saying.
You did a post last night where you said you want ICE to really target Democratic.
Yeah, I want them to focus on the cities, because the cities are where you really have what's called sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. I look at New York, I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor, but the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals, and New York and L.A. Look at L.A. L.A. Those people weren't from L.A. They weren't from California. Most of those people, many of those people, and that's a focus. Biden allowed 21 million people to come into our country. Of that, vast numbers of those people were murderers, killers, people from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities, all blue cities.
So Trump is clearly on tilt here. He's just angry. He's riled up. The questions are only making him all the more furious. And I'm sure that Carney was thinking, well, I do have to then go talk to this guy. So maybe we settle things down, because as Trump went to take another question, Carney just stepped in, shut it down, kind of shut him up, essentially, because we know Trump loves yelling at the press. Just take a look at what happened.
All Democrat-run cities, and they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
That's it. Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to exercise my role, if you will, as G7 chair, since we have a few more minutes with the president and his team, and then we actually have to start the meeting to address some of these big issues. So
thank you. Thank you, media. Let's go.
Mark Carney is a real leader. Every time I see him speak, respond to Trump, really do anything, I'm just like, oh, we were so close. We really were. Because this is a guy, and he knows Trump inside and out. He really does. It's the reason why there's no Governor Carney, there's no, jabs at Canada anymore, because he knows Trump, and he knows that he had to make a little power move there and shut him down and say, no, you're done talking. Well, we've had enough of you. We've had enough of the ranting and the rambling. We don't want to hear more about your sad parade or your disgusting ICE raids. No, we have had enough of that. And speaking of which, we heard someone who gave proper critiques, actually a good conversation about Donald Trump's failures, and Senator Tammy Duckworth, who didn't just call out his parade, but also called out those ICE raids. And I want to take a look at what she had to say right here.
The vast majority of these No Kings protests were very peaceful, and the crowds were huge. White House officials tell me that the crowd at the military parade, not what they had hoped, certainly smaller than expected. What are your thoughts as a veteran about that spectacle we saw this weekend, about the Army being honored for its 250th birthday, but also falling on President Trump's birthday?
This was not about the Army's 250th birthday. If you wanted to celebrate the Army's 250th birthday and spend $60 million, you could have spent it on tuition for our troops, funding for military families. You could feed all the homeless veterans in this country. So if you truly wanted to celebrate the Army's 250th birthday, then spend the money the correct way, not with a parade for a tin-pot dictator wannabe, which is what Donald Trump is. I felt that it was obscene to have done that at a time when we're trying to cut funding for VA, when we're firing people from their jobs in federal government, and frankly, we're the greatest military on the face of the earth. We don't need a parade to prove it.
And others pointed out the juxtaposition of the parade with ongoing conflicts around the globe. And let's turn to the Middle East. You, of course, served in Iraq. What is your assessment, what you've seen so far in Israel's attack on Iran? Iran has hit back a little bit. We've seen some of their rockets landed. Do you sort of support what you're seeing here from Prime Minister Netanyahu in this attack?
Well, let's start off by the fact that I support Israel's right to defend herself. Israel is in a very, very scary neighborhood, and Israel is our only true, real ally in the Middle East. That said, we got here because Donald Trump pulled us out of the Iran nuclear deal, allowed Iran to continue to work towards refining more uranium, grow their nuclear program. So it's not surprising that Israel would hit back. That said, we need to urge both sides to work towards peace. We do not need the Middle East to flare up into another full-blown conflict. I think that Iran probably underestimated what was going to happen. It seems like Israel has decapitated much of their leadership, especially when it comes to the nuclear development program. But, Donald Trump is supposed to be a deal maker, right? And yet he couldn't bring both sides to the table and prevent this from happening.
Yeah, he's still pushing for those talks. I want to get your opinion on what we talked about last segment with former General McCaffrey, ex-CIA analyst, about the idea that probably the U.S. would have to assist with a B-52 and these bunker-busting bombs if Israel was to really go after the deepest Iranian nuclear facility. Would you be in favor of that move?
I have to see what the conditions are. I don't usually commit to a vote beforehand. I would like to see what it is. I have always supported packages to help Israel, especially those defensive packages. I worry about getting the United States embroiled in yet another Middle East conflict that can last 10, 20 years. Look at what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. But I stand by our ally Israel because they are the true allies that we have. They provide us with intelligence. They have been there for the United States. I happen to think Netanyahu is a war criminal. I don't trust him. And this is where if we had somebody who was competent in the White House, somebody who's competent in the Department of Defense, somebody who's competent at actually negotiating deals, I would have more confidence. But right now, I don't have a lot of trust in the White House and its ability to actually bring this to a resolution.
Let's quickly hit a couple matters here at home. Over the weekend, last night, President Trump on Truth Social doubled down on ICE raids we saw in Los Angeles. He says he wants to expand that to a variety of blue cities, name-checking one in your home state, Chicago.
Yeah. Well, because he's using these for his political expediency, right? He's doing this. He's ginning up the unrest. He is separating American-born children from their families. I'm all for deporting violent criminals. Let's deport the felons. Let's deport the violent criminals. But that's not what he's doing. He's actually doing political theater in order to come up with a pretext in which he can send in the National Guard, so he can send in the United States Marines. We just had to evacuate our embassy in Iraq. That's where the Marines should be, protecting Americans abroad. They shouldn't be on the streets of our country turning their weapons on fellow Americans. It is completely un-American, but this is all Donald Trump's doing.
And Senator, in our final 30 seconds here, we obviously, this terrible incident in Minnesota, 2 state lawmakers shot, 1 killed. Just your concerns about the rise in political violence that we're seeing across the country.
It's not acceptable. The rise in political violence is not acceptable. When I was elected, some people voted for me, some people did not vote for me, but I represent everybody in the state of Illinois. We should be working to bring down the level of rhetoric, the level of targeting of one another, and that starts with every one of us that's elected. But it also starts at the White House. The president can't go out there and make the statements he is. Some of my colleagues are making some pretty questionable statements on social media. That has no place in American politics or anywhere in America.
Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois. Senator, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
In this moment, independent media is so important because we discuss not just what is happening, but the context, the reason, the why of it all, which becomes so much more important when you have an insane president like Donald Trump trying to stir up conflict. It's not just enough to talk about the conflict itself. It's not just enough to talk about the unrest on the ground in Los Angeles. It is pertinent to talk about the fact that it is the plan of the president to cause it by sending not just Secret Service, ICE agents, DHS, the Marines, National Guard. How many forms of police do we need in downtown LA to watch people peacefully walk around carrying funny signs mocking Donald Trump or standing up in their community? It's insanity. This is the police state that conservatives always warned about. Ooh, Joe Biden and George Soros they're gonna come get you. But now it's Donald Trump with his masked thugs and Palantir making sure that not only they can attack you, but they can also steal your information while doing it. That is the scary reality we live in. The mainstream media has failed to cover it. We're going to be covering it properly on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can leave a like on this video. You can hit that subscribe button. You can drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.